Creativity rocks social justice movements. Poetry, dance, movement, visual art, those kinds of things really aid the aims of social justice movements by doing two things. The first thing is that when a social justice message, say something that's working against racism or sexism, misogyny, heterosexism, all of those kinds of topics that are really difficult to create messaging that are friendly, those messages do become more friendly and more of an invitation when there's some kind of creativity that's presenting the message. When the vehicle for a social justice message is presented in a way that's an invitation, other people are able to jump onto the bandwagon a lot more easily. Secondly, social justice messages that are presented in a vehicle of creativity also help to nurture social justice movement activists. And activist burnout is a real serious problem within social justice movements. So keeping some kind of creativity at the core of a social justice movement's work really helps the longevity and sustainability of social justice movements. I was really inspired by the EZLN, the Zapatista movement, the recent Zapatista movement in Mexico, and the poetry of Subcomandante Marcos. And I've wanted to teach a course for a very, very long time on this area of social justice movements. And so finally, here I am teaching this course in social justice movements with the theme of creativity rocks social justice movements. And now you're about to see a video where I interview two activists and talk about their creativity and their innovations in using some kinds of out-of-the-box solutions to get their work done. Welcome. I'm Farah Shroff, and I'm on the unceded lands of the Musqueam Nation, part of the Coast Salish family of Indigenous nations, here at the University of British Columbia, where I work in the field of public health and the social determinants of health. And I'm joined by two amazing people, Morgane Oger of the Morgane Oger Foundation, and Dale Edwards, an activist and organizer. And we're going to talk about creativity in the work you do as well as in activism in general. So Morgane, let's talk about creativity and what it means to you and how it's an invitation for social change.
Well, when I think of creativity, I think of thinking and acting outside of the box.
Yeah.
The box of contemporary thinking about how you do things. And in my own experience, I remember being told by Mike Harcourt, actually, that my plan to convince the provincial government and federal government to change human rights law was a beautiful idea, but maybe I should choose a new idea because that's just not doable. Not today, not in this world, not under Harper and Christy Clark. It was out of the question, and I was like, And
what did you do about that?
Well, what we did is I went and looked for how other revolutions had been won by coming out of nowhere. And there was a book, and I wish I was good at names of books, but I think it's called Manufacturing Revolution or something like this. It talks about how in some revolutionary movements where there's a terrible inequity between the oppressed trying to change something and the oppressors, a tool that worked really well was finding an icon of resistance that was an everyday item and using that to show your displeasure. It was used in Chile with pots, right?
Yeah.
And it was used in Africa with specific fruits, and it was used in Serbia to bring down the Milosevic government.
Yeah.
And I don't remember which one of them. One of them illustrated this incredibly creative way to act, which is, first of all, you need buy-in from the grandmas, because if you don't have the grandmas doing it, then you're wasting your time. So one. And two, you have to come up with something that the grandmas will actually use. And what they came up with was oranges at the market. And they would go, so basically the dissatisfied people would go to the market and buy an unhealthy quantity of oranges. And then they would place them or drop them somewhere, because dropping an orange on the stairs cannot possibly get you taken away, right? Yeah. Especially if it's your grandmother that dropped the orange. Yeah. And then you get into this ridiculous comical scene where the secret police are running around picking up oranges, which have become a toxic symbol of rebellion, which is the whole point, because the creative aspect was getting the oppressors to humiliate themselves by doing something out of slapstick. And that's what they did. And when I think of creativity, I think come up with an idea that you can't get attacked for, that everybody will do, that is highly recognizable and iconic, because pretty soon you see thousands of oranges everywhere. And that just gets your point about how ridiculous the system that you're fighting is. So with Milosevic or the despots, it's police forces chasing oranges. With trans rights, it was people screaming about how horrible it was going to be to even allow trans people to exist, because we're going to trans everybody, right? And you just get these people to like speak for themselves, and next thing you know, you can quote them on Twitter, and then you have the oppressors, looking like fools. Creativity, I think, is about going into the new place. It fits my concept of what fine art is. To me, fine art is anything that has never been done. Even if it's, the ceramic toilet bowl on top of a pile of seashells with a sea star on it. If you're doing something that has really never been done, then that is actually fine art. Whereas yet another cubist picture in 2018 is no longer fine art, because it's all been done. It's not discovery. Do the fine art. Just do it in all the ways, and then you're going to be creative, and you're going to solve all the problems of your world.
Absolutely. So Morgane, you've talked about something that the grandmothers would do, using everyday items like oranges and getting literal buy-in from large numbers of people, and finding ideas that are so kind of out there that they're easy to adopt, but not easy to predict. Yeah. And then having a little Twitter storm sometimes. That helps too.
Having a little fun with your victim is always fun.
Thank you so much. And Dale, let's talk about creativity in your work and the work around you.
Yeah. And for me, I love hearing Morgane's stories. And it's absolutely true, because when I think of places that I've been, I haven't been to every single event. For instance, I really would have loved to have been at Standing Rock when all the different nations, it was hundreds of different indigenous nations that came, and water is life was the word.
Yeah.
And the creativity of all these different peoples that came, and all the non-native support people that came, and the way one woman went up with her candies to and there were many, and it was never shown on media in a way that, was reflective of what was really happening. Went up with candy to all these armed Darth Vader type dominating media police and
militia.
Different police actually from different communities that came, because there was the DAPL, there was all the others. And so that element, for me, when I think of the vision of creativity, because there's creativity in youth and creativity in elders, as you're talking about. The youth ran to Washington. The elders were there from these communities. It was amazing. And I've been told those stories. And for me, I also, because food is so important to me, I feel creative in preparing meals and helping when they've had meals for different events that the people I've worked with have put on. And
Delicious meals at that. You're an amazing cook.
And growing the food and being able to take that creativity of food, and I love feeding people. And so I mean, I think there's creativity in every single one of us. And I don't quite I'm not that artistic in the sense of drawings or anything.
You're
but
a sewer.
I know that in sewing, there's creativity in many different ways, and so it is important to do creativity for every single person.
Wonderful, Dale. So your food has been one of your forms of creativity,
Yes.
and you've been part of Indigenous rights actions that have used a lot of really unusual things, offering candies to the police, watching youth run to use their energy and run to the Capitol.
They did, yes.
Yeah. And your creativity has come in many other ways that I've seen with your sewing and other things. Yes. So both of you have used really different kinds of creativity, but a genius in the way of thinking about the issues that you're trying to shine a light on and finding ways that will capture attention of the people you're trying to capture the attention of. So I'm really inspired by that from both of you.